The galaxy was wide and full of wonders, yet for many centuries the great powers had lived under a kind of balance. The elder races ruled their regions with heavy fleets and grand councils. Borders were marked, trade routes were protected, and every ship that crossed those lines was watched. It was not peace born of friendship, but peace born of fear. Each power feared the strength of the others, so no one dared to move too far. That balance began to shake on the day the human warship was seen for the first time. It happened in a quiet stretch of neutral space. Merchant ships often passed through this region, carrying goods between distant stations. Small patrols of alien cruisers drifted nearby, keeping the lanes safe from pirates. Nothing unusual ever took place there. On that day, however, a shadow appeared against the stars. The first crew to see it was from a trader ship called Rellan Star, a vessel crewed by the Dren, a people known for careful record-keeping. The navigator looked up from his console and froze. There was something vast on his scope, far larger than any ship he had ever tracked. At first he thought it must be an asteroid, but its movement was too steady, too precise. The image sharpened, and the shadow stretched across the screen. It was not rock. It was metal. The crew gathered at the viewing ports. Their ship was large enough to carry thousands of crates, yet the object outside made them feel like insects in the dark. The warship glided with slow grace, as if time itself bent around its path. Its hull was layered in angles that caught the light of the nearby star. Whole cities could have rested within its frame. Word spread quickly. The Dren captain sent coded signals to the nearest patrol, and soon 3 cruisers of the Zaran Empire arrived to investigate. Their commanders were seasoned, their ships well-armed, yet when they came close to the human vessel, their confidence weakened. The warship dwarfed them all. Each cruiser looked like a toy beside it. They tried to scan it. At once their systems faltered. Readings came back broken, as if the warship was wrapped in a haze that swallowed signals. Mass could not be measured. Engines could not be traced. The Zaran officers exchanged worried looks, and one of them whispered that this ship was not meant to exist. From that moment, fear began to ripple outward. Reports rushed to every corner of the galaxy. Councils received fragments of data, shaky recordings of a giant vessel gliding in silence. Across meeting halls, the name of one species rose again and again: humans. Until now, most thought of humans as newcomers, small in number, scattered across young colonies. They had traded in small markets and signed treaties only when asked. Their fleets were modest. Their weapons were not feared. Many rulers dismissed them as just another young race climbing slowly toward the stars. Yet here was proof of something else. No one could explain how such a ship had been built. The resources alone would have been enough to drain entire planets. The design showed skill beyond what was believed of human engineers. Some claimed it must be stolen technology. Others said it was an illusion. But those who had seen it with their own eyes knew it was real. Too real. The ship did not speak. It drifted in neutral space, moving with calm certainty, never firing a weapon. The silence was worse than open threat. Merchant crews avoided the region. Patrols stayed at a distance. And all across the galaxy, questions grew heavier. Why had the humans made such a vessel? Was it meant to defend, or was it meant to conquer? Was it the only one, or were there more hidden in the void? Every admiral who studied the reports felt the same unease. They could fight each other with fleets of hundreds, But none wanted to face this single ship. Its presence alone unsettled the order of things. The great balance of the elder powers, the fragile peace that had lasted for ages, was now in danger of breaking. In the chambers of the Zaran Empire, the elder Khal raised his voice. If one ship can do this, then the humans have already shifted the galaxy. We may not see their fleets, but they have shown their hand. No ruler can rest while such a vessel exists. In the halls of the Saurian League, another leader whispered a different fear. Perhaps it is not built to attack us at all. Perhaps it is only to remind us that we no longer stand above them. If so, it has already won. The galaxy was wide, but word moved fast. Everywhere, rulers, merchants, and soldiers spoke of the same thing. A ship too large to measure, a silence too heavy to ignore, and one name carried on every voice: humanity. The warship remained still, yet its shadow stretched. Farther than any empire could reach, the human warship did not move far from the neutral lanes. It glided in slow circles around a quiet star, its surface gleaming like a floating fortress. No banners flew from its hull, no signals reached out, and no weapon fire came from its cannons. Yet every ship that drew near felt the same chill. The warship did not act, but its very presence was enough to freeze the galaxy in tension. The first test came from smaller fleets. The Zaran Empire, unable to wait in silence, sent forward 2 more cruisers. Their orders were simple: measure, probe, and if possible, force the ship to speak. The captains of those cruisers were confident at first. They had fought pirates and defended borders for years. Yet when their ships reached sight of the human vessel, that confidence turned to doubt. On their screens, the warship stretched longer than any fleet station. Its armor was lined with strange patterns, perhaps layers of plating or perhaps something unknown. When the cruisers opened scanners, the results were as confusing as before. Their beams struck the vessel and scattered into static. The engines of the human ship glowed faintly, yet their heat did not register. The hull gave no clear signature. It was as if the ship chose what could be seen and what could not. The Zaran captains grew restless. They sent coded signals in every known language. The warship gave no reply. Silence filled the space between them, a silence so deep that one officer compared it to standing in a vast cavern with no echo. When the cruisers drew closer, they launched a set of unmanned probes. The small craft sped toward the human vessel, sending back flashes of light and data. For a brief moment, the admirals thought they would finally learn something new. Then it happened. The probes vanished. There was no beam, no flash, no impact. One second they were there, the next second they were gone. The only trace left was a short burst of static on the sensors. Officers stared in disbelief. The warship had acted, but no one could see how. The message was clear all the same. No machine was allowed near it. The loss of the probes spread panic through the fleet. Some urged retreat. Others shouted that such silence was an insult, that the humans mocked them by refusing to answer. The debate grew heated, and still the warship remained motionless, as if it cared nothing for their presence. News of the standoff spread across the galaxy like fire. Other powers sent their own ships to watch. The Saurian League dispatched a wing of sharp frigates. The Dren Republic sent observers to record everything. Even the distant Silari Union sent a single heavy carrier, though it stayed far from the human vessel. Within days, More than a dozen fleets surrounded the silent giant. None dared to strike first, yet none dared to leave either. It became a gathering like no other. Admirals sat on their bridges with hands tight around their chairs, staring at the dark form in the center of the system. Crews spoke in hushed voices, afraid that even their words might awaken the ship. Every eye was fixed on the warship that had spoken nothing, fired nothing, and yet held them all in check. For the common crews, the waiting was worse than combat. Soldiers trained for the clash of battle, for orders shouted and weapons fired. But here there was nothing. Hours passed into days, and the warship remained calm. Some whispered that perhaps it was not even manned, that it was only a shell left to float as a warning. Others swore they saw faint changes in its lights, signs of life inside. The commanders of the gathered fleets called councils. They met through secure channels, each arguing over what should be done. One side pushed for attack. If we strike together, it cannot stand against all of us, one admiral declared. Another warned of caution. We do not know what weapons it carries. If we move too soon, we may lose more than we gain. The debate went in circles, but still no decision came. No one wished to risk being the first to fire for fear of being the first to fall. And the human warship, silent as stone, made every moment heavier. Among the crews, stories began to grow. Some claimed the ship could bend space itself. Others said it could vanish and appear elsewhere in an instant. None of these tales had proof, but fear gave them weight. To many, the waiting itself became proof enough that the humans had created something beyond reason. As the standoff stretched on, merchants and traders steered far from the system. Traffic lanes that had been busy for years grew empty, small. Colonies nearby felt abandoned as ships avoided the region. The human vessel had fired no shot, yet already its presence was changing the map of the galaxy. On the fifth day, a strange thing occurred. The warship shifted slightly, turning one, great side toward the fleets. Its movement was smooth, unhurried, but it sent a shiver through every commander who watched. Was this a warning? Was this the start of an attack? Weapons across the fleets armed at once, lights flashing red in every bridge. Yet nothing happened. The warship turned, then held still again. Not a single cannon fired. The tension grew unbearable. Entire fleets of proud empires, each one powerful in its own right, sat locked in place by a single vessel that refused to fight. The silence was not weakness. It was strength of a kind they could not understand. By the end of that week, one truth was clear to all who watched. This was no ordinary ship. This was not a vessel built for simple defense or trade. This was something made to hold the galaxy in its grasp without even moving. The silent standoff had begun, and the galaxy was no longer the same. The warship had stayed silent for many long days. Fleets of many empires gathered around it, waiting, watching, and fearing the moment it might act. No one dared to move closer after the probes were erased, and no one dared to fire the first shot. The galaxy held its breath. Then, at last, the silence broke. It began with a faint ripple of energy from the vessel. Lights flickered across its hull, not as weapons, but as signals. For the first time since it arrived, the ship spoke. A clear voice filled the channels of every fleet. The sound was calm, steady, and human. We are not here to conquer. We are not here to beg. We are here to be seen. The words rolled across every bridge. Crews froze at their stations. Admirals leaned closer to their screens. The voice was not loud, yet it carried a weight that could not be ignored. "We are humans," the message continued. "For too long, the galaxy believed we were small and weak. You believed our place was at your tables only when invited. You thought we could not stand on our own. You thought we had no power worth respect. You were wrong. The warship did not shout. It did not threaten. Yet every word struck like thunder. Officers exchanged uneasy glances, for the voice carried neither fear nor anger. It carried certainty. "This ship is proof," the humans declared. "We have built something that cannot be measured by your tools, that cannot be broken by your weapons. We do not say this to frighten you. We say this so you understand that humanity will not bow to the old order. We will stand as equals among the stars." The fleets listened in silence. Even the proudest admirals felt the weight of the message. For generations, the elder empires had ruled, and younger species were forced to follow their commands. Humanity had been one of those younger species, often overlooked, sometimes mocked. Yet now the humans spoke from a fortress of steel that none could deny. One Zaran officer whispered to her commander, "They do not need to conquer. That ship already conquers with its presence." The commander said nothing, but he felt the same chill. The human voice continued, steady as stone. "We seek no war. We will not fire unless we are forced. But we will not return to silence. From this day forward, humanity will choose its own path. Every empire will recognize us. This ship will remind you of that truth." When the transmission ended, the void grew heavier than before. The warship gave no further signal. It simply drifted, engines glowing faintly, as if the message alone was its weapon. Across the fleets, debate broke out. Some officers argued the humans had shown restraint, offering peace instead of conquest. Others saw the speech as the greatest threat ever spoken. To them, the humans had declared their independence from the balance of power, and that could not be allowed. Reports of the speech spread far beyond the system. On distant stations, merchants repeated the words in taverns and markets. Miners on cold moons passed them like legend. Children in colonies asked their teachers about the humans who built a ship the size of a city. The message was carried by traders, spies, and travelers until every corner of the galaxy heard it. For many common folk, the words brought hope. They saw in humanity a spirit of defiance, a refusal to bend before ancient thrones. For rulers and councils, however, the words were heavy with danger. If humanity could speak so boldly now, what would they say tomorrow? And if they had built one ship like this, how many more waited unseen in their territory? In the high chamber of the Saurian League, the Elder Council gathered in secret. "This is no small change," one member said. "We cannot allow them to rewrite the order of the galaxy with a single vessel." Another member leaned forward. "Perhaps we cannot stop it. Perhaps this is the new order." The chamber filled with argument. No answer was found. Back at the standoff, the warship remained, quiet after its speech. Its lights dimmed once more, and it floated as if content. The fleet stayed on edge, unwilling to withdraw, but also unwilling to risk attack. Every commander knew their ships could not match what they had seen. For the crews who watched day after day, the silence after the speech was worse than before. They had heard the humans speak with such certainty that no one doubted their words. Even without firing, the ship had changed everything. By the end of that week, The galaxy understood one thing with painful clarity. Humanity was no longer a minor species to be ignored. They had shown the universe a message of steel, and the echo of that message could not be silenced. The human warship had spoken, and the words still echoed across the galaxy. Fleets remained locked in the system, circling the silent giant, but the real struggle was now far away, inside the chambers of power. From empire to empire, rulers and councils gathered in fear, anger, and confusion. In the grand hall of the Zaran Empire, the High Council sat beneath towering banners. Generals and ministers crowded around a long table of black stone. A great image of the human warship hovered above them, cast by a projector. It turned slowly, showing the vessel from every side. "This ship cannot be allowed to exist," growled General Khan, his voice firm. "It is a direct threat to the balance of power. If humans can build one, they can build more. Our fleets will be made useless." Across the table, Minister Valar shook his head. "You have seen what it can do. Our probes vanished without trace. Half the fleets in the system sit frozen by fear. Do you think a strike will succeed? Attack too soon, and we may hand the humans the war they claim not to seek." The room broke into arguments. Some shouted for attack, others demanded patience. None could deny the truth. The humans had shaken the Empire to its core. In the shining towers of the Saurian League, a different council gathered. The Saur were known for cunning diplomacy, yet even they felt uneasy. Their leader, Elder Marin, raised his hands for silence. "We must think beyond fear," he said. "The humans are bold, but they have shown restraint. They fired no shot at our fleets. They declared no conquest. Perhaps this ship is not meant for war, but for warning." One of his advisors leaned forward sharply. "A warning is still a weapon. If we allow this, the younger races will rise in rebellion. Every colony will look to humanity as their model. The old order will break apart." Marin nodded slowly. "Perhaps it is already breaking. The question is not how to stop the humans, but how to live in a galaxy where they cannot be ignored." The advisors argued deep into the night. Far across space, the Dren Republic Council met in their tall chamber of glass. The Dren were merchants, before all else, and their worry was not weapons, but trade. "Our routes are empty," complained one governor. "Ships fear to pass near the human vessel. Profits fall each day it sits there. If this continues, our economy will wither." Another stood and pointed toward the stars on a map. "It is worse than that. The humans did not fire, yet already colonies close to their borders whisper of alliance. They speak of joining human markets instead of ours. Their warship is a seed of influence. If it grows, our people will drift away from us without a fight." The council fell silent. In their hearts, the Dren feared something no cannon could destroy: the idea that humans were strong and unafraid. Even in the farthest reaches, in the marble halls of the Sailari Union, panic spread. The Sailari had been proud rulers for centuries, their fleets unchallenged at the edge of the spiral arm. Now their admirals whispered behind closed doors. One slammed his hand on the table. "We must unite the powers. Alone, no empire dares strike. Together, we may succeed," another hissed in reply. "And if we fail, what if this ship is not alone? If humanity hides more of these vessels, then our attack will awaken them. We will be crushed." The chamber grew dark with silence. Every Words spoken in fear only deepened the shadow cast by the human warship. Across the galaxy, similar scenes unfolded. No throne sat in comfort, no council spoke in calm. The humans had declared they would not bow, and the great powers did not know how to answer. Rumors spread quickly among common people as well. Traders told tales that the humans had more ships waiting in hidden docks. Miners whispered that the warship's hull was made from living metal. Children asked if the humans would come to free them from taxes and rulers. The truth did not matter. The fear and the hope were enough. The leaders of the great powers knew one thing clearly. The galaxy could not remain as it was. Either the humans would be brought down, or every empire would be forced to bend to their presence. In the Zahran Empire, General Khan rose once more in council. His voice carried the sharp edge of war. We cannot wait. The longer this ship sits in neutral space, the more power it gains without firing. We must gather the fleets, call on allies, and strike as one. Minister Velar answered with tired eyes. And if we fail, we will awaken the storm. So the debate raged, but no decision came. Fear and pride wrestled in every hall. Some dreamed of alliance, others plotted destruction, and many simply hoped the warship would vanish on its own. Yet deep down, all knew that the humans had built it for a reason. The galaxy had lived under an old balance for centuries. Now the balance cracked. Councils sat in panic. Thrones trembled, and every ruler stared at the same shadow in the stars. The human warship had spoken once, and the galaxy had no answer. Weeks passed since the human warship had spoken. The fleets around it remained tense, each captain unsure how to act. Far across the galaxy, councils debated endlessly, yet no action had been taken. The humans had shown patience, and that patience had become a weapon of its own. Finally, the leaders of three great powers, the Zahran Empire, the Saurian League, and the Dren Republic, decided they could wait no longer. A coalition fleet formed, ships from different empires sailing together under a single command. The goal was simple: test the strength of the human warship. No one dared speak of destroying it yet. That step seemed impossible. Admiral Khan of the Zahran Empire led the fleet. His vessel, enormous and bristling with weapons, hovered at the front. Behind him, hundreds of ships followed, each carrying crews trained for battle. The coalition fleet moved with precision, but beneath the discipline ran a current of fear. Every captain knew that once they approached the humans, the outcome could be unpredictable. In the human warship, Captain Rami observed the incoming fleet. The humans had prepared for many possibilities, yet they had not fired a single shot since arrival. Their calmness was deliberate. Rami spoke to the bridge crew. They think they can test us. Let them. We will not strike unless necessary. Let their pride meet patience. The crew nodded. The warship hummed quietly, shields glowing faintly, engines ready to move at a moment's command. Every sensor tracked the approaching coalition, measuring speed, formation, and weapon power. As the fleet drew closer, the coalition fired a warning volley. Bright energy arcs streaked toward the humans, flashing across the void. They did not aim to destroy, only to provoke. The human warship did not move. The beams struck the shields, sparks dancing across the hull, but no damage came through. The lights of the warship flickered once, then returned to steady brilliance. Admiral Khan's voice echoed through the fleet. They will not yield. All ships prepare to advance. Test their limits, but keep formation. The coalition advanced, weapons charged, engines blazing. Yet the humans remained patient, monitoring every movement, ready to react with speed that no one could yet measure. Then something unexpected happened. One of the smaller Saurian ships broke formation, eager to prove its strength. It launched a series of missiles directly at the human warship. The missiles streaked forward, fast and fiery. With silent precision, the human vessel responded. A shield pulse expanded outward, deflecting the missiles harmlessly into space. The smaller ship rocked from the feedback of the pulse, and alarms blared on its bridge. Captain Rami spoke calmly. "We defend. We do not attack. Their pride will teach them." The coalition fleet hesitated. Their weapons still glowed, but the first warning had been enough. None wanted to be the next to test the warship. Yet the leaders of the three powers demanded courage. They ordered the fleet forward. As they moved, the humans activated a new feature. A low hum grew in intensity, vibrations traveling through the hull. Then, without firing a single weapon, the warship created a wave of energy that pushed the coalition fleet back. Ships rocked in formation, alarms screamed, and officers struggled to maintain control. No one was hurt, but the message was clear. The humans could move the fleet without firing a shot. Admiral Khan gritted his teeth. "Enough! Fire everything!" Lasers, missiles, and plasma beams streaked across the void. The human warship tilted, slightly, deflecting attacks with shields, moving with speed that no one expected. Each shot that reached it bounced harmlessly, absorbed or redirected by technology that seemed beyond comprehension. The coalition crews grew anxious. Their pride urged them to continue, but fear began to take hold. If one warship could withstand this much, what could a second do, or a third? Captain Rami remained calm. "Let them learn the truth," he said. "We are strong, but we do not seek war. They will see our patience first. Then, if they insist, they will see our strength." Hours passed, yet no human shot was fired. Slowly, the coalition began to retreat, their confidence shaken. The fleets had tested the humans, and the humans had responded without violence. Yet every admiral knew the truth. The human warship could have destroyed them all. When the fleet returned to its system, discussions turned into panic. The humans had proven their power, and the message could not be ignored. Councils across the galaxy debated again, but now with a new understanding. Humanity was no longer a species to be tested. They were a species to be respected. Back on the human warship, Captain Rami observed the retreating fleets. "They have learned much today," he said to the crew, "and they will learn more. But the galaxy must understand that we do not strike first. Strength is not measured by destruction, but by restraint." The crew nodded. The warship moved silently, ready for any challenge, yet patient. Humanity had survived its first test without a single life lost, and the galaxy had witnessed the truth. Humans were not only brave, they were too strong to ignore. The retreat of the coalition fleet marked a turning point. Across the galaxy, whispers of the human warship grew louder. No one had seen anything like it. No weapon had struck it down, yet it had shown power beyond imagination. Humans were no longer the minor species of the outer systems. They were a force to be reckoned with. In the Saurian League, Elder Marin called an urgent council. "We cannot attack them," he said. "The humans have strength we cannot match, but neither can we ignore them. Perhaps the time has come to speak, not fight." His advisors murmured agreement. Diplomacy had always been their greatest weapon, and now it would be tested in new ways. The human warship had not sought battle, yet it had forced every empire to reconsider their strategies. Meanwhile, Captain Rami aboard the human vessel watched the stars carefully. Sensors picked up fleets moving cautiously through nearby systems. Traders and explorers sent messages to human stations, reporting the movements of ships and the growing discussions in distant councils. "We are being watched," Rami said to the crew. "And not just by fear. They are curious. They want to understand us. Let them watch. Let them learn our patience." The crew nodded, accustomed to the long hours of waiting, observation, and preparation. For humans, patience was a weapon as sharp as any laser. In the Dren Republic, the Council debated whether to approach the humans for trade and alliance. "They are strong," one governor said. "Too strong to challenge, but not so violent that they destroy without reason. Perhaps it is wise to speak with them, to learn from them, and to offer friendship." Another governor agreed cautiously. "If we gain their trust, humanity may become a partner. But if we provoke them, all of our fleets together will fail." Across the galaxy, similar debates took place. Even the proud Zaran Empire considered sending envoys. Pride warred with practicality, yet slowly the idea of communication gained ground. Humans were not enemies. They were a power that demanded respect, and respect could lead to peace. Finally, emissaries from multiple systems approached the human warship. The vessel, calm as ever, opened communication channels for the first time since the test. A Saurian envoy spoke. "We wish to understand your intentions. We acknowledge your strength. Let us speak as equals," Captain Rami replied simply. "Humanity does not seek war. We do not bow to fear. We stand for ourselves and for all who choose freedom. We welcome dialogue with those who respect that." The words spread quickly. Messages of peace and curiosity reached fleets and colonies alike. Humans were willing to communicate, and that willingness carried a weight no one expected. Over the following weeks, representatives from many systems visited the warship. They came with questions, with offers of trade, and with cautious proposals for alliances. Humans answered each question carefully, each proposal thoughtfully. Their reputation grew not only for strength, but for wisdom and fairness. Back in human territory, stations buzzed with activity. Scientists, diplomats, and engineers worked together to support the warship and the growing connections across the galaxy. Humanity had moved from being an overlooked species to a central power without firing a single destructive shot. In the Zaran Empire, General Khan admitted reluctantly, "We tested them and failed. But perhaps it is not defeat. Perhaps this is a lesson in restraint, in courage, and in respect." Even the youngest officers felt the truth. Humans had shown that strength did not require violence. They had earned respect by standing firm and showing restraint. Among the human crew, morale was high. "They see us differently now," one officer said. "Not just as strong, but as worthy of trust." Rami nodded. "Strength without wisdom is dangerous. We have shown both. The galaxy is beginning to understand." The warship continued its silent patrols, moving through systems while humans built connections and alliances. They did not demand obedience, Nor did they impose fear. Their presence alone was enough to change the behavior of entire fleets. As the weeks turned into months, the human warship became a symbol, not a weapon of destruction, but a beacon of power and restraint. Species that had once looked down on, humanity now approached with respect. Traders sought permission to travel safely. Explorers asked for guidance. Even some fleets stopped patrolling hostile borders to avoid unnecessary conflict. The galaxy had learned an important lesson. Strength could inspire fear, but wisdom could inspire loyalty. Humans had mastered both. Captain Rami stood on the bridge, one evening watching the stars. The warship glowed softly in the dark void, a sentinel and a teacher. "We have earned respect," he said quietly. "But respect must be protected. We will continue to show the galaxy what it means to stand firm, to act wisely, and to remain patient. The future belongs to those who can balance strength with honor." And as the stars stretched endlessly around the human warship, the galaxy began to change. Alliances shifted. Powers reconsidered their strategies. Fear softened into cautious admiration. Humanity had proven itself in a way that no battle could achieve. The human warship was more than steel and engines. It was a message to the stars. Humanity would not be ignored, and it would not bow. The human warship moved steadily through the stars. Its presence had shifted the balance of power across countless systems. Where fear had once ruled, respect now took its place. Fleets that had once prepared for war now watched cautiously, listening to messages of dialogue and understanding. Captain Rami stood on the bridge, observing the horizon of distant suns. Every system they passed carried ships in cautious formation. Some hailed the humans, offering supplies and greetings. Others simply watched, unsure whether to approach or stay hidden. Yet every eye felt the weight of the human warship. It was a silent reminder of strength, tempered by wisdom. "We have changed the galaxy," Rami said to the crew, "and our work is not done. Strength is not measured only in battle, but in the trust we earn and the peace we maintain." The crew nodded, their eyes scanning the endless stars. Engineers checked systems, scientists studied reports from neighboring worlds, and diplomats prepared communications to emerging powers. Every member of the warship understood their role in shaping history. Suddenly, a signal arrived from the Saurian League. Their leader requested a meeting near the neutral system of Verta Prime. The message was respectful and clear. They wished to discuss cooperation, trade, and shared defense. Rami activated the response. "We will meet as equals," he said. "Prepare the shuttle and diplomatic teams. This is a moment of opportunity." When the human delegation arrived at Verta Prime, they were greeted by leaders from multiple systems, including the Saurian League, the Dren Republic, and smaller independent colonies. There was no hostility, only curiosity and respect. For the first time, humanity was treated as a central power, not a newcomer or a threat. The talks began with careful words. Humans spoke of their desire for knowledge, cooperation, and exploration. They emphasized that power could protect, not oppress, and that restraint was a true measure of strength. Leaders from other systems listened. They shared their experiences, their fears, and their hopes for peace. Slowly, a common understanding emerged. The galaxy could thrive not through endless conflict, but through collaboration and mutual respect. Back aboard the human warship, the Crew monitored nearby space. Sensors detected distant fleets adjusting their courses to avoid conflict, knowing that humans now commanded not only power, but influence. Every system seemed to move a little more carefully, a little more thoughtfully. Weeks of negotiation passed and agreements began to form. Trade routes opened under mutual protection. Scientific research was shared across systems. Explorers from different species traveled safely, guided by the reputation of the human warship. Where chaos had once reigned, stability began to grow. Captain, Rami stood on the observation deck one evening, looking out at a galaxy slowly changing before him. He spoke to the crew, his voice steady and calm. "We have proven that humanity can be a force for good. Strength does not need violence. Wisdom does not need conquest. Today, we show the galaxy that patience, courage, and honor matter as much as power." The crew listened in silence, understanding the magnitude of their actions. They had faced the galaxy's greatest fleets, resisted provocation, and earned respect without firing a single destructive shot. They had shown that humans were strong, wise, and worthy of trust. In distant systems, other leaders sent envoys and messages of goodwill. Fear had been replaced with cautious admiration. Where once humans had been underestimated, they were now consulted and listened to. Humanity had become a standard of honor and capability in the galaxy. Rami knew challenges would come again. Not every power could accept the new order easily, and not every system would embrace cooperation immediately. Yet the warship's presence and humanity's example had changed the rules. Diplomacy backed by undeniable strength was a force no one could ignore. The human warship continued to patrol, not as a weapon of war, but as a guardian and teacher. Its lights shone across the darkness, a beacon of hope and stability. Traders, explorers, and diplomats passed safely because humans had shown that power and wisdom could coexist. One evening, as the warship sailed near a star cluster, a young officer spoke to Rami. "Captain, do you think the galaxy will ever forget us?" Rami smiled. "They may forget our names, but they will remember our deeds. Strength without cruelty, wisdom without fear. That is humanity's legacy. That is what will guide the galaxy forward." The stars stretched endlessly around them, but for the first time, the darkness did not feel empty. Humanity had carved its place among the stars, not through violence, but through courage, restraint, and honor. And as the human warship sailed on, systems across the galaxy began to look to humanity for guidance. A new era had begun, one in which power was balanced by wisdom, fear replaced by respect, and the galaxy slowly united by the example of a single extraordinary species. The human warship moved on, ready for any challenge, yet calm in the knowledge that the greatest battles were already won. Humanity had proven itself not just strong, but worthy. The galaxy was watching. The galaxy was learning, and humanity, patient and wise, would continue to shine among the stars.